I've almost never seen a primary quite like this, where there's 5 candidates all within like 3 points of each other. The South Carolina gubernatorial Republican primary. There were like 6 polls that came out in the last few days. All 6 of them found all 5 candidates between 12 and or 10 and 21%. Like, I have never quite seen anything like that.
Totally nuts.
Totally nuts. You see this giant spike somehow, despite 6 different polls showing it's basically a 5-way tie. The Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett has a 77% chance in the markets here, and a giant spike right there. And if you guess that was when Donald Trump endorsed her in the race, you would guess correctly. But the interesting thing here is she's not really seeing a spike in the polling out of that. It was a classic Republican primary in the Trump era where all 5 of them are like, no, I'm naming my first child Donald J. Evett, and like they're all just like tripping over themselves trying to see who can suck Trump's, the most. And I guess the New York Times writing, not long ago, a Trump endorsement in a solidly red state like South Carolina would have gone a long way to helping Miss Evett secure victory. But the president's choice in the first wide open governor's race in almost 2 decades has not proved decisive, just as it did not prove decisive in Iowa's primary. Speaking of penises, you'll have to watch the last episode for more on Zach Lane and his penis vacuum emporium. But in interviews, voters appeared to be more concerned who could steer the state, the fastest growing in the country, through its growing pains and infrastructure woes. And many, like this voter they talked to, draw a distinction between state and federal leadership. Interesting. Nancy Mace, though, she tweets after Pamela Evett wins the endorsement, just saying Pamela Evett is not endorsed by Donald Trump. Do not believe her lies. And she has a Grok-made video that's just her and Donald Trump thumbs upping made out of AI thin air. And she's just like, I've never seen anyone go so far off the deep end, like in the middle.
Dude, is she good?
She is very much not good.
Trump is having like a mental breakdown. Totally get it. All right. I feel bad for the guy, whatever. Dog, she like broke. Like
Yeah. Trump's mental breakdown is just like acceleration. Her mental breakdown is like she was like a normal politician. And then one day she was like, my brain broke. Like, Donald Trump did not endorse Pam. He endorsed me. It's like crazy ex-stalker vibes. Like, what the fuck? And Dana Bash asked her about this.
You were running for governor in a very crowded Republican primary on Tuesday.
It's a dogfight.
You were not endorsed by President Trump. Instead, the Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett was. You've still put up pictures, as have other candidates, of you with the president. I think yours was AI, and you disclosed that.
Pictures with the president that are real. That's not AI.
Oh, she was like, I've taken pictures with Trump. She's like, right, but what? But you just posted like a fully AI thing that's just you and Trump doing a thumbs up, being like, he didn't endorse her. He didn't endorse her.
Bro.
He didn't even block my number, I swear. Like, crazy. Dana was eventually like, okay, let's just move on to the actual impact of the endorsement, though, because he did endorse your opponent. Totally bonkers. So anyways, that race is guaranteed to go to a runoff, and we'll talk about it again once there's a runoff. And not the only interesting race in South Carolina. Check out this shock poll that came out from the Citadel, nonpartisan, not aligned with any candidate. Lindsey Graham only up 10 points on Mark Lynch in the Republican primary in South Carolina. And that same poll showed him at like barely above water with Republican voters. I mean, Tim Scott was overwhelmingly popular with Republican voters. So it's like not as if this is just like, he's just wildly unpopular. And part of what happened in this race is, Paul Dans was running against Paul Dans, who is the architect of Project 2025 and source material for all of your guys' Kamala HQ videos. He dropped out of the race and endorsed Mark Lynch. Lindsey Graham, as you can see, is like actively begging voters now, like, please keep me in the game so I can keep golfing with Mr. Trump. It's much closer than I want it to be. Joe Kent's out here endorsing Mark Lynch. So like, it does still seem to be sort of an outlier, but it's also kind of the only nonpartisan poll that's come out in a little bit there. And it would be remarkable if he does not clear 50% in the first round of this primary. And I think he could lose a runoff the same way that, John Cornyn was kind of fucked once it went to a runoff where only the crazies turn out. Trump has endorsed Lindsey. So again, another situation where like Trump may not have full control over the base anymore. And the last thing I'll mention in that race is, again, Kalshi kind of not giving the polls much credence here. But look at this. This is kind of crazy. I mean, I talked about this race being in play along with Mississippi months ago, but I was kind of out on the thinnest limb ever there. And now Kelsey given almost 1 in 4 chance that Annie Andrews, who will coast to victory in the Democratic primary, great candidate, but 1 in 4 chance that we flip South Carolina. I mean, I'll take it. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
It is crazy. You are much more bullish on South Carolina than I am. But
I just think it's notable that
she's like, bye.
Exactly. I'm already like talking to Senator Annie Andrews.
Yeah.
Much in the same way that Nancy Mace lives in an alternate reality in which Donald Trump has endorsed her. I live in an alternate reality where it's like me and Senators Annie Andrews and Scott Colomb chilling at a table.
We'll get Annie Andrews on the show and she'll tell me I'm an asshole for
totally. I will say that was when I knew for sure that Scott Colomb was the truth. I was like, this guy gets it.
This guy was briefed and listened to more than 5 minutes of this show. So,
and concluded that Rob is an idiot.
He's a fucking idiot.
Best candidate we've had in years.
Nobody knows anything.